GB News paused for huge breaking announcement as Home Office gives asylum update. GB News presenters Eamonn Holmes and Ellie Costello brought their morning show to a halt as they shared a huge update on air. GB News presenter Eamonn Holmes halted the beloved breakfast show this morning to issue an urgent breaking news announcement. The broadcaster revealed that the Home Office is ending its relationship with the biggest provider of migrant hotels. This is a breaking showbiz story. The showbiz team will be updating this story with the latest information as soon as we receive it. For further updates, please refresh the page. You can also get email updates on the day's biggest TV stories straight to your inbox by signing up for our newsletters. Get all the very best headlines, pictures, opinion and video on the day's top showbiz stories by following express.co.uk every time you see our name. You can also sign up for Twitter alerts for breaking news and all the latest updates by following at daily_express, or for the latest TV and showbiz news, follow at Express Celeb. Keep up to date with your must-see TV stories, features, videos and pictures throughout the day by following us on Facebook at GB News paused for huge breaking announcement as Home Office gives asylum update. Recently, GB News paused its programming for an urgent breaking announcement that focused on updates from the UK Home Office about asylum policies and immigration reform. The announcement stirred significant attention, considering its far-reaching implications on the UK's handling of immigration and asylum seekers. 1. The Home Office Asylum Update. The UK Home Office's latest updates regarding asylum seekers focused on new measures to address the growing backlog of asylum claims, the rise in small boat crossings, and the challenges faced in housing and supporting those seeking refuge in the UK. Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, highlighted several new strategies being implemented to tackle what is seen as a crisis in the UK's asylum system. Among the major elements discussed were return hubs in third-party countries. One of the most controversial proposals was the creation of return hubs in countries such as Albania, North Macedonia, and Serbia. These hubs would serve as locations where rejected asylum seekers could be relocated, pending further immigration processes. This proposal is part of the government's push to reduce the number of people entering the UK illegally and to deter people from making dangerous crossings in small boats across the English Channel. Changes to asylum application procedures. The Home Office unveiled proposals to fast-track asylum claims to ensure quicker decisions on applications. The intention is to address the rapidly growing backlog of claims, with reports indicating that the number of asylum seekers awaiting decisions has surged dramatically over the past few years. This backlog has led to increased pressure on the system and has fueled debates about how best to handle asylum claims. Stricter criteria for asylum approval. In line with these changes, the government also proposed a more stringent vetting process for asylum seekers, particularly focusing on claims that involve individuals arriving by boat or entering the UK illegally. The Home Secretary emphasized that these measures would help the government focus on legitimate asylum seekers while preventing abuse of the system. 2. Controversy surrounding the proposals. The announcement was met with considerable backlash from various quarters. Political opponents and humanitarian organizations have expressed concern over the legality and ethical implications of relocating rejected asylum seekers to countries outside the UK. Legal challenges. Legal experts argue that such plans may face significant challenges in the courts, particularly under international refugee conventions that the UK is a signatory to. Critics have warned that sending individuals to third-party countries could breach international human rights laws, leaving asylum seekers vulnerable in countries that may not be equipped to provide adequate protection. Humanitarian concerns. Many human rights organizations have condemned the proposals, claiming that they would put vulnerable asylum seekers at risk. There are particular concerns about the safety and welfare of individuals sent to countries that may lack the infrastructure to provide adequate shelter, healthcare, or legal representation. Public opinion. While some members of the public and certain political groups have supported these measures as necessary to reduce illegal immigration, others have expressed concerns about the long-term consequences of pursuing a harder stance on immigration. Critics argue that these policies risk undermining the UK's reputation as a compassionate nation and may alienate people in need of genuine refuge. 3. Broader context. The growing pressure on the asylum system. The breaking announcement from GB News also highlighted the broader context of the UK's ongoing struggles with asylum applications. The Home Office has faced significant challenges in processing the increasing number of asylum claims. As of late 2024, there were nearly 42,000 asylum seekers awaiting decisions on their cases, marking a near 500% increase in just 2 years. The surge in asylum seekers can be attributed to several factors, including Increased numbers of small boat crossings. The rising number of migrants arriving in the UK via small boats from northern France has been a key issue in recent years. Despite efforts to curb these crossings, including the controversial plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda, the numbers have continued to rise. COVID-19 pandemic impact. The pandemic disrupted asylum processing systems across the globe, including in the UK. Many asylum seekers were left in limbo as applications were delayed, and support services were scaled back due to the crisis. Public outcry over accommodation. Asylum seekers have often been housed in temporary accommodations like hotels and military barracks, leading to criticisms about conditions and the adequacy of these facilities. There were reports of overcrowding, poor living conditions, and even outbreaks of COVID-19 in such accommodations. 4. Napier Barracks closure announcement. In a related announcement, the UK government also confirmed that it would close the controversial Napier Barracks in Kent by September 2025. The barracks, which were used to house asylum seekers during the pandemic, have been widely criticized for poor conditions and their role in the spread of COVID-19. A recent High Court ruling had declared the site unfit for housing vulnerable individuals due to its inadequate facilities and overcrowded conditions. The decision to close Napier Barracks is part of the government's broader efforts to address accommodation concerns for asylum seekers and improve the conditions in which they are housed while awaiting their asylum claims to be processed. 5. Political and public reactions. The proposals outlined by the Home Office have sparked intense political debate. The government has faced criticism from both opposition parties and advocacy groups, which argue that these policies are inhumane and risk violating the UK's international commitments to human rights. Opposition party reaction. Labour and the Liberal Democrats have denounced the government's approach, calling it a dangerous and unworkable solution that will not solve the root causes of asylum pressures. They argue that the UK should focus on improving the asylum system rather than pursuing punitive measures that might leave people in vulnerable situations. Supporters of the government's plan. On the other hand, some members of the Conservative Party and their supporters argue that these measures are necessary to protect the integrity of the UK's borders and prevent illegal immigration. They believe that stronger deterrents are needed to reduce the number of people attempting to enter the UK unlawfully. Public sentiment. Public opinion is divided on these proposals, with some arguing that tougher measures are required to combat illegal immigration and reduce the strain on public services. Others believe that the UK should continue to honor its commitments to asylum seekers and refugees, offering protection to those fleeing persecution. 6. The road ahead. As the UK moves forward with these proposed changes to its asylum system, the debate is likely to continue. The government's strategy will likely face legal challenges, as well as public protests and political opposition. How these policies are implemented will be crucial in determining their effectiveness in addressing the asylum crisis while balancing the UK's obligations under international law. Moreover, as GB News highlighted in its breaking announcement, the situation remains fluid, and future updates may bring further changes to the Home Office's approach to asylum and immigration policies.